We welcome our Nigerian viewers and viewers around the world. This is Business Week, where we offer you unique insight into the economies around the continent, as well as zero in on the biggest news story in the world of business. I am Kelly Egiga, and I'm reaching you from Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. Now, our focus on the show today is on, of course, the petrol scarcity, which has resurfaced in many parts of the country, creating long queues of vehicles scrambling for the products at filling stations, of course, across the country. Well, this conversation will take center stage in just a moment, but let's run you through some stories that trended earlier in the week.
3.2 trillion naira is currently in circulation in Nigeria, but 2.7 trillion, representing 85% of the total amount, is outside the banking system's vaults.
Announcing the arrival of the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
This is one major reason why the Central Bank of Nigeria is now announcing its planned introduction of redesigned 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes by December 15th this year. The old currencies for the affected denominations will cease to exist as legal tender from the 31st of January next year.
The management of the CBN has sought and obtained the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari to redesign, produce, release, and circulate new series of banknotes at 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira levels. In line with this approval, we have finalized arrangements for the new currency to begin circulation from December 15th, 2022, after its launch by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The Apex Bank expects the development to help mop up currency in circulation, thereby giving it better control. It as well hopes this will address the spate of kidnapping, whereby cash is mostly paid as ransom, and control rising currency counterfeiting issues.
The redesign of the currency will help deepen our drive to entrench cashless economy, as it will be complemented by increased minting of our e-naira. Also, in view of the prevailing level of security situation in the country, the CBN is convinced that the incidence of terrorism and kidnapping will be minimized, as access to large volume of money outside the banking system used as source of funds for ransom payments will begin to dry up.
The Apex Bank expects the move to address rising inflation as well. It wants the public to immediately begin depositing cash in banks and directs the banks to immediately stop all charges on deposits to drive the process. This marks the launching of Nigeria's Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones Initiative. The $538 million project is the joint effort of the federal government, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, the African Development Bank, as well as the Islamic Development Bank. The launching marks the start of the Agro-Industrial Processing Zone's first phase, which will be implemented in selected states across the country. The authorities describe the initiative as an attestation to the country's commitment to agricultural transformation.
Is now a critical component of our agricultural strategy, which is to accelerate the industrialization of our agricultural sector with the objective of being ahead of our constraints in providing food, nutrition and wealth for the largest population on the continent.
The first phase of the SAPZ program is to kickstart with a credit facility of $410.49 million already secured from our co-financing development partners.
The zones are expected to drive value addition for agricultural commodities, enhance food security, and boost non-oil income generation.
With the SAPZ project, we will have reached $700 million of direct investment with Nigeria, and with co-financing $1.2 billion with our partners in Nigeria.
The SAPZ is the flagship for Nigeria's agriculture, which entails the development and operation of agro-industrial processing clusters in areas of high food production across the country, to engender the competitiveness in agro-industrial production and processing.
The special agro-industrial processing zones are geared towards driving agro-processing activities in areas of great agricultural advantage. They are designed to bring together agricultural producers, processors, aggregators and distributors to operate in areas of comparative advantage that will help cut down on transaction costs while driving productivity.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's head into our big conversation now. Petrol scarcity has resurfaced across many locations in the country, creating long queues of vehicles scrambling for the product at filling stations. There also appears to be no reprieve for residents across the country, as well as the FCT and its environs, including Nasarawa and Niger states, as the bite in petrol scarcity has now almost entered its 5th week. Here in Lagos, reports are also showing that there were long queues in filling stations at the Maryland area of Lagos, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Aguda, amongst others, as some of the outlets were shut, while a few others were also selling. In 2021 and even early this year, there was a similar crisis that started after the government announced its plan to remove fuel subsidies. And marketers, who the regulators are accusing of hoarding the product, have also refused to resume normal operations even after the suspension of the subsidy removal plan. And I had a chat with an energy expert and lawyer, Mr. Damilare Oyinlola. He's also a research analyst. All right, Mr. Damilare, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us here on Business Week. So fuel scarcity is back in the country. Here in Lagos, the nation's capital, Abuja, and environs in Nasarawa State and, of course, even in Niger State as well. What exactly is your initial assessment and initial thoughts to this emergence again of fuel scarcity across the country?
When we talk about energy, energy is the backbone of any country that wants to develop and that is eager to develop. In fact, the major difference between a developed country and an underdeveloped country is the amount of energy at their disposal. So when you have long queues, when people can't access energy, even Nigerian being one of the major producer of crude oil in the whole world, not just West Africa, it's a sad story that we find ourselves in this. It's a sad story that we find ourselves in this situation.
Can I also ask you about some of the factors responsible for this fuel scarcity? For instance, I mean, there are issues as the back and forth between the federal government and the independent marketers and even the distributors and all of that. Kindly help us highlight some of these factors perhaps contributing to the fuel scarcity or fuel shortage in the country, and just how concerned are you?
So once there's this price disparity, it affects the general public. If the landing cost of fuel, let me say for example, if the landing cost of fuel is 145, and you expect the marketer to sell below their landing cost, there will be a problem. And another factor that is also responsible for this is shortage of supply. Most of the time we are concerned with subsidy, we are concerned with oil theft, we are concerned with refinery not functioning, forgetting that most of the reasons why we have most of this queue is shortage of supply. Like what is happening presently, NNPC depots are empty. The distribution, there is a shortage in the distribution in the distribution gap. So once there is this shortage, even if this product is available and you can't distribute it, it would amount to what we are experiencing at this moment. It's not just enough for us to have refineries that are working without looking at the distribution gap. This government already, they've done, at least they are already on the right path by commercializing NNPC, but there still needs to have to have a proper reorganization of that sector so that we won't have issues such as distribution, shortage of PMS in their facility.
So in a moment, let's talk about the 2023 budget, the appropriation bill as presented by Mr. President just a few weeks back. There's an issue in that budget that is generating a lot of reactions. Of course, that has to do with the issues around fuel subsidy, the removal of the controversial fuel subsidy. I wonder which side of the divide you belong to, because Madam Minister, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has, of course, expressed concerns about the fact that fuel subsidy, the fact that the government keeps subsidizing fuel for Nigerians is hurting Nigeria's economy. So which side of the divide do you belong to? Should we continue with subsidizing fuel for Nigerians, or should we totally remove fuel subsidy by mid next year, June precisely, 2023?
Yes, that's the way to go. In fact, between June 2021 and August 2022, 24 countries with Nigeria had a long protest because of removal of subsidy. And one of those countries is France. Fuel subsidy in entirety is not a bad thing, but it's something that should have a time frame. It could either be it's just to cushion the effects of hardship on citizens. So if we are saying we want to remove fuel subsidy at this point in time, it will definitely shoot up the cost of things in the market. There will be high inflation. And we also have shortage of supply, because when your citizens cannot even afford the products, the few people that can afford it, they will capitalize on it, and it will reflect in the price of commodities in the market. So my own opinion about this subsidy, maybe they are doing it at the wrong time, but I know definitely a time will come where we have to remove fuel subsidy. But the question is, are we ready for that at this point in time? And how has the government been communicating this to the entire public? I think something like that happened during Jonathan administration when they wanted to remove fuel subsidy, but people are not properly informed. There are benefits, there are pros, that we can debate these as long as we want. But the question is the government ready for that? Then the citizens, are they also ready for that? What are the measures? What have they done to make sure every other mechanisms, every other players in the sectors are directly involved to make things better for the people?
I mean, it's interesting that you have mentioned France, even though, I mean, the reports just reaching me a moment ago is the fact that the country is experiencing an inflation rate of that they haven't seen since 1985. But that aside, apart from issues around fuel subsidy removal, there's another issue that has plagued the oil and gas sector for quite some time now, and that has to do with issues around oil thefts and pipeline vandalism. I wonder just how you think this is also contributing to what the situation is right now in the country with the hike in fuel prices and, of course, fuel scarcity.
If the government is ready for removal of subsidy, and also if the entire public is ready, and the simple question is communication. There's a lot of communication gap when the average citizen don't even know the mechanism, the support, what they'll be getting from the government in terms of looking at other factors that plays in the market. Because presently, as it is, there's no power. We don't have enough power to run our business. We don't have enough power to even, because majority of people depend on PMS for electricity as an alternative to power. So there's a lot of discussions around this. So if this is going to, definitely, like I said, fuel subsidy cannot be there forever, but it's something is something in the short run, just to cushion the effect of hardship on people. So the conversation is, if we are ready. So to my opinion, I don't think we are ready for that now, for removal of fuel subsidy. It's going to affect almost everybody, even though we know most of the people that are even benefiting from this fuel subsidy are even people in the neighboring country, not even people in Nigeria. People, when the marketers get this product subsidized, then they take it to neighboring country to sell at higher price. If in Ghana, for example, the price of a liter is between 450 and 500. In Niger, is between 350 and 400. So they get this product subsidized, they take it to Niger to sell and make that profit. They take it to Ghana to sell and make that profit. But we don't have all these data at our disposal. Ahmed Lawan, the speaker, was even complaining the other time, wondering if we consume 100 liters of fossil fuel in a day. All these things are still based on technology. So we need the appropriate data to even know what we consume. I think that is even the way to go. Once we know what we consume, we'll be able to know, okay, what is going to the neighboring country. We'll be able to know what Nigeria needs at this point in time. But removing subsidy without all those preparations, is really going to affect the common man on the streets.
Well, those are indeed weighty allegations. I mean, you've mentioned issues around the cabal, and you fingered some members of the federal government as well. But so when you take a look at what we are going through right now as a country, I mean, long queues in many parts of the country, many locations in Lagos State, and of course across the country as well. How do you think this might be contributing to disrupting or disruption of economic activities in the country at this time? I mean, for instance, the transportation sector, commercial vehicles would have to increase fares. Some have, according to reports, they have even increased fares as much as even 50%.
Fuel subsidy in entirety is not a bad thing, or is not a negative thing in entirety, but there should be a time frame. Fuel subsidy should be either a short-term or a medium-term effect to cushion the effect of an hardship on citizens, in order to be so that citizens will be able to purchase the price at their own convenience. But looking at it, is the Nigerian government ready to remove this? And not just Nigeria, governments in the world are battling this. Between June last year and now, about 24 countries already protested because their government tried to remove subsidy, which France is also part of that country. And when Minister of Finance also announced this in November, I think she said by January of this year, that was November 2021, by January of this year, they intend to remove subsidy. Ever since then, there has been so much instability between the independent marketers and NNPC. It's just like they are waiting, they are prepared, and who are going to be the victims is going to be the common man. So removing subsidy has to be a gradual process. You don't just wake up and decide to remove subsidy. There should be plans, there should be mechanism, there should be a proper project. There should also be a proper communication before this will be removed. So removing subsidy is not the issue for me. If subsidy is removed, it's a very wonderful idea. It's going to also bring in more players to the industry, people with the market to now determine the price of things. But are we ready for that? What are the plans? What are the projections? What is government looking? What would be in place of the subsidy? I think the Minister of Finance also announced that instead of paying for subsidy, they would be dishing out 5,000 naira to the poorest of Nigeria. So I think these are the plans that we need. More plan. We need a plan that would be beneficial to the people. We need a proper communication. Who are these Nigerians? Where are they? What part of the country are they? So removing subsidy is not a bad idea, but what is the government doing in order to ease the cost of living for Nigerians? So to me, I would say if they can remove it by June next year, it's a fantastic idea. But with what they've done between now and that June, I've not seen the plan. So at this side of the divide I'm sitting, I've not seen the plan. There is no step towards doing that.
All right, so because you have mentioned inflation, I mean, for us here in the country as well, for the past 7 to 9 months, we have seen a surge in our inflation figures and rates. I mean, only for the month of September, we saw that it skyrocketed to 20.77. Well, we are headed for November now. We are headed for the festivity period. I mean, Christmas is just around the corner. And of course, there's still the ongoing war in Ukraine as well, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There are other global issues, global inflation rates and all of that. I wonder if you think that we may perhaps see these figures increase or surge the more, because it's just November, we're headed for November, and the Christmas period is just around the corner.
Definitely, it will definitely increase. Looking at what is happening, this is what we experience almost every time when we are approaching this season. There will be more need for energy. There will be more need, and there will be more need for energy. And these are market players. And these are market players. They are the ones that determine the price of things. So once this thing is cost reflective, is reflecting on the cost of our daily needs, and even sorry, let me not forget to even mention the issue of exchange rate. I thought I even mentioned that at a point. In as much as there is a change in the exchange rate, if there is an increase in the exchange rate, it's going to cause issue in terms of disparity of prices. So there's going to be a wide margin between the exchange rate and the local rate, which is our naira. So the pressure on the forex at this point in time is high. The pressure on forex at this point in time is very high. And going through the year, the third season, we should be prepared. We should be prepared. So if there is even going to be anything, if anything is very good, if the government can actually roll out plans as at now, there is no strategic communication from the government on how to cushion this, on how to reduce the burden on our forex. Because at times, most of all these marketers also complain about non-availability of forex to import this product.
All right, so let's round off our conversation by discussing the ways forward and, of course, your recommendations. But when you look at this issue around fuel scarcity, for instance, and the fact that we have the Petroleum Industry Act, the PIA, fantastic document, as some have described it. But yet, here we are again battling issues in the oil and gas sector. How can we bring some sort of stability to that sector? How can we maximize the fact that we are one of the highest oil producing countries in the world, and yet we still have the issues that we are faced with, issues around oil thefts, pipeline vandalism, controversial subsidy removal. Here are arguments for and against. What are the ways forward?
To start with the fuel scarcity, a lot of factors contribute to fuel scarcity. Just this year alone, from subsidy to shortage of supply to even the distribution. At times, we have most of these independent tankers that will tell you, you know what, they can't go to this part because of the cost of buying diesel. And in whole, I would just like to put all the problem into one basket, and that basket is leadership. They need to reorganize the NNPC. This government, they've done their own by passing the PIA into law. They're also commercializing the NNPC. Is a very good step towards the problem, but they still need to have a proper reorganization that would improve productivity in terms of the modus operandi of the NNPC. For instance, the issue that is causing this scarcity we're experiencing at the moment is the issue of shortage of supply. And once there's shortage of supply, it sends signals to private tankers owners. Okay, there is issue. Not that most of these filling stations don't have fuel, but they know NNPC at the moment their vessels their storage are empty, so they tend to jump on it and make more money by holding fuel, by selling at their own price. So one of the key things is to get the proper hands and the proper leadership in that sector regarding the NNPC. Then concerning the issue of oil theft, I think we still have a long way to go because the government is not even looking at the direction of combating most of these things with technology. I mean, there are technology that could be used. Now, this has even been adopted in USA. I think there was a conference sometimes in 2009, which Nigerians had about 4 representatives in that conference in USA. Every other country that participated, they've adopted that technology. But in Nigeria, we are yet to do that. In Dubai, for example, there are ways they combat this vandalization, these oil theft, and obviously, like I said, I don't believe there is any oil theft. This still boils down to leadership in that sector. from the NMCC. People should be held responsible for their actions. Then also the legal part, we also still need to reform most of these laws in terms of fines, in terms of punishment. Some people will just, you know what, let me just do this. What is the fine? How much fine am I paying? And it's like the legislation, in a way, it's supporting the act.
All right, fine place to leave our conversation. Mr. Damilare Oyinlola, thank you so much for speaking with us here on Business Week.